Hi, this is Lauren from LSP Actions and welcome to the complete video tutorial for the Lemon Sky Air Balloon digital backgrounds for Photoshop. This tutorial is both for the Cloudy Day balloon and for the Rose Sunset balloon. First you need to download the files from the LSP Actions website and then open up Photoshop. So let's get started. On my screen I have both the Cloudy and Stormy digital duo here and the Rose Sunset early morning duo here. This tutorial covers both of the air balloon backgrounds because the principles are exactly the same, so whichever one you've got, or if you've got both of them, the methods of applying the baby and editing these are exactly the same. You'll notice a multitude of layers over here in your layers panel. If you can't see the layers panel, come up here to window and choose layers. At the bottom you have two bases. For Cloudy Day you have the Cloudy Day base and the Storm Clouds base. You can simply click this little eye icon here to turn these on or off. And it doesn't matter at which point in your editing you do this, you can always add baby in first and then decide which background you want. And with this one you have the Rose Sunset and the early morning. Above this you have the change colour layer. Let me just slide the layers panel out a little bit to show you. The change the blanket colour. This one is really helpful because it means you don't have to change the blanket layer yourself. This simply does it for you. So once you've added baby in here, you can turn this one on or off if you like to change the colour of the blanket. Simply double click this little icon here and you will get a hue saturation box pop up and you can drag the hue. Can you see there? It's changing all different colours. And the same for this one. Double click the box and you can drag this and change the colour. You can also change the intensity here with the saturation and the lightness too if you wanted to. This really helps. So for example, if you shot baby on a pink blanket, you can change the toning to match once you've added baby in. Above this you have a Your Baby Here layer. You can use this as a smart object, you can double click and add baby, or you can just paste baby in, whatever is easiest for you, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. On the Stormy and Cloudy digital background, you also have a slightly lift Cool and Matte the Baby brush on, which you can use once you've added baby to match the tones a little bit more with the digital background. And with the Rose Sunset you have the same thing here, but you have a little pink warmth to add to baby. You can simply brush that on, but don't worry, I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Above this you have an Add the Rainbow option. You can turn this one on or off to add a gorgeous rainbow overlay. And the same here. Because after every storm there is a rainbow. On the Cloudy and Stormy digital duo you have a creamy toning option you can turn on or off. A vignette which will darken the edges, and some extra contrast. You can simply play with these, turn them on or off if you want to. You can also add your own editing layers in. On the Rose Sunset you have a vintage fade wash, peachy warmth and the extra contrast. So let's get started with adding baby in. If you're using the LSP digital background applicator actions, these do not come with the balloon, but they are available over at www.lsp-actions.com. And these actions will allow you to add baby in, mask, tone, blend, add shadows, everything you need when compositing digital backgrounds with newborns. But for this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do it by hand. But again, if you have those actions, it will make it easier and you can follow the instructions with those actions on how to add baby quickly. You can add baby directly in by coming up here to File, Place Embedded and choosing your edited baby image. I always recommend editing your baby image first to get rid of those blemishes, sort the skin, sort the toning, give it a nice light and airy feel to that edit. But don't worry about removing the background or anything, just edit the baby image first. Double click the Your Baby Here and you'll see this opens a separate transparent box. This box is square and it's roughly the size your baby needs to fill, with a little bit of room. The head-on hands pose from the front works best for this image. So you need to go up to File, Place Embedded, locate the edited baby image on your computer, and it will appear layered over onto this box. It will have a transform rectangle around it, so you can resize baby and drag the sides out to position. If baby's at a different angle, you probably want baby straight on, so try and get baby as straight as possible. If in doubt, maybe try and keep the eyes straight, or the arms. Now, how large you make baby in this box depends on how large you would like baby to show in the balloon, whether you want baby to fill the entire balloon area or you want baby to look a little bit small in the balloon. It's entirely up to you. Once you've resized, hit enter and then go on to File and choose Save. Not Save As, just Save. The reason for doing it this way means that you can open up this baby again if you have some skin editing to do or anything else like that. It allows you to do this. But if you don't want to do it this way, you can simply place the baby onto the balloon using the same technique. So once you've saved, close this one down and it will bounce back to the balloon in the Smart Object box. And just like this. Again, if you're using the digital background actions from the LSP Actions website, it will do everything for you, so you don't need to do it this way. At this point, I'm going to take the opacity of the baby image down a little bit and zoom in. Now we can really start positioning the baby. You can hit V or select the Move tool up here. To move baby into position, you want the arms resting on the lip of the balloon here. Or you can hold down Control or Command T to bring up a transform box again and rotate baby. You could also liquefy at this point if you wanted to add a little bit more curve to these elbows or anything like that. The next step, put the opacity back up again, is to mask the baby. So click here on the white layer mask box. If you've added baby manually and you don't have a white layer mask box, you can come down here to this little icon that looks like the Japanese flag and add a mask there. At this point, you're going to want to select a brush on black, make that small, on a high opacity and around a medium flow, and you can start painting the background away. You may want to harden this brush up a little bit as you get closer to the baby. There are several ways you can mask the baby in Photoshop. Depends which version you're using. If you're using an older version of Photoshop or you're using Elements, the techniques may vary. I'm on Creative Cloud, so I'm going to go on to Wand or hit W and choose the Select Subject option, and this makes generally a pretty good selection of the subject there. You can go into Select and Mask, or if you're on an older version, Select and Refine Edge, and you have a Refine brush here. This will allow you to refine the hair on the baby selection a little bit, just picking some areas up there. But again, the method you use for masking baby really does depend on your version of Photoshop and your level of using Photoshop. I'm going to invert that selection so that everything else is selected. And now I can just start brushing this background off. That makes it a lot easier. If you're doing this manually by hand, you're going to need to zoom in nice and close. So you can start brushing areas away by hand. I recommend doing this anyway, whichever method you're using to mask the baby in, because it allows you to get a really good selection. You want a nice accurate selection. To paint areas back in, you can switch the brush to white. You have white or black here, black hides and white shows. You can simply hit X on your keyboard to switch between black and white. That makes it a lot easier to edit. If you shot baby on a similar blanket, then this is going to be really easy for you. If you've shot baby on a completely different blanket, you're going to want to get in nice and close to make sure you can paint this all away, especially going around those little fingers. So there's baby in the balloon there, and you can see this works with the other background, the storm clouds, or in the rose sunset. This would work with early morning and rose sunset there. And you'll notice everything else does not affect that baby layer. You can simply turn these all on or off. But we're not quite finished with the baby yet. You see here you have a slightly left cool and matte baby brush on layer. You can grab this. I'm going to take the opacity down a little bit and choose a white brush And this will add that nice cool tone to the baby. If your baby image is a little bit dark, I'd recommend adding that one in. Something else I forgot to mention too is these digital backgrounds are lit from the right, meaning your image needs to be lit from the right too. If your image is lit from the other direction, for example, let me just flip this baby, you'll see there the light is not adding up. If the light is coming from the left on your image but the right on the digital, that's not going to add up. So you need to Control or Command T and flip horizontal, or you could flip the digital horizontal if you prefer. Just make sure those lightings match up. Now maybe you have the change the blanket colour option. You can turn this on at this point, and that will be below your baby layer. Somehow I've moved my baby layer, not quite sure how I did that. I managed to drag it down. There's a blanket colour here, and remember you can double click this one and change the hue to suit your image a little bit better. This works well if you've left a little bit of your original blanket in for some reason. You can use that to match it up. And at this point, if you click on the baby layer, you can add any adjustments or actions or anything like that, especially if you're using the LSP digital background applicators, to change your baby image a little bit more to make it suit the digital. So I'm just adding a little bit of contrast, light contrast there. I'm going to Control or Command I. You don't have to do this. This is literally just, I'm just adding that to just brighten that baby up a touch. Underneath the baby layer, you're going to want to add some shadows. Again, if you're using the applicator actions, it'll do all that for you. If you're going by hand, click underneath the baby layer, anywhere underneath. Come down here to the adjustments and choose levels. And bring the slider down. You see this is darkening underneath the baby. At this point, if you've left any of your original blanket in, that will still be light, so you're going to want to also add this above the baby. Control or Command I. I'm just going to rename that one Shadows. Click on the black box with a white brush, nice and soft, nice low flow, and you can use this to add some shadowing under and behind the baby. Alt and drag this up to your baby image here. If you need to add, you can see there I left some of the original blanket in. And then you can use a white brush to paint some more shadow in underneath the baby here, or on top of the baby. Because this is clipped to the, let me hide that one, to the baby layer here, it means the effects will only change that layer. So just play with that until you're happy. And you can double click this layers here, and you can change this to suit your image a little bit better if you want to. Once you've done all the editing and you're happy with how the composite looks, you can decide whether you're going to turn on a rainbow, add creamy toning, add a vignette, or the extra contrast. You can also turn on or off the other backgrounds too, for example storm and clouds here. And you can mix and match until you're happy with the image. I think that looks lovely there, like that one. And then when you want to save for your client, you can come up here to File, Save as a copy, and then save it a JPEG image. If you're on an older version of Photoshop, use Save As. And if you want to save all the layers as well, you can use Save As, but I recommend changing the file name, otherwise it's going to save over the original digital background. But no worries if you do, you can always re-download it from the LSP Actions website. So let's go again with the rose sunset, and let's go a little bit quicker. With this one, I'm going to show you how you can just add baby. Oh, forgot to mention here, because baby is a smart object, if at any point you want to re-edit this one, you just double click the image. For example, if you wanted to, I don't know, change the hue or saturation or anything like that, you can do it on this layer without affecting the balloon or anything like that. So, for example, we just added a slight creamy toning to that baby there. Flatten down and save. And you'll notice this bounces back to the balloon again. That's why working with a smart object with your baby layer is really, really good practice when editing digital backgrounds. So I'm going to go a bit quicker. Let's add a baby here into the Rose Sunset and Early Morning Digital Duo. So I'm going to open that one up, place baby in. Now this image is lit from the left, the balloon is lit from the right, so at this point I'm going to flip the image horizontal there and hit enter, save, and this will bounce back to the digital. On the mask, because I'm on Creative Cloud, I'm going to use the Select Subject option again. I'm just going to invert that. I'm going to use a white brush. Oops, excuse my fumbly fingers. Just to paint some of this away. So a white brush to add the background in and a black brush to paint some of this away. If your image kind of naturally matches the digital up, for example having a grey or a pale colour behind baby's head, you're going to find this section of masking a lot easier. So I'm just into select a mask now, just to make sure I can pick up this hair selection. And back onto the mask. Now you can see baby is not properly on the bucket at all, so I'm going to go Control or Command T and resize baby in. At this point I think I'm going to add a little of the original blanket, even though the textures don't quite match. It will allow me to have some of those original shadows back in there. The trick is to just blend, 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 switch between a black or a white brush, using the X on your keyboard to make it even easier, make it even quicker. And it's also the most important part to get right, so do take your time with the blending. I'm going to use the Add Pink Warmth to Baby, this layer here, so grab a white brush on a low flow. That will just add a little bit of peachy toning. And that goes really nice with the Rose Sunset. At this point again I'm going to add a levels layer. I'm going to lift this slider to the left and this one a little bit to add that kind of lovely brightness there, but if you're using the LSP digital background actions, it will create all these kind of layers for you, so it really does save a lot of time. So I've just lifted baby there a little bit. Because I'm using pretty much the original shadows from the original image here, don't really need to add any shadows or shading in, but of course you could add a levels layer. Bring the darkness down a little bit, Control Command I to invert, white brush and paint on. If I'm talking a foreign language here, when it comes to masking, it really is worth learning how to mask in Photoshop because it will save you a lot of time. I just accidentally deleted that, adding another layer mask in because I'm just going to add some darkness here. Having an eye for detail when you're editing digitals is really quite important, so if at any point you're not sure if what you're doing is the right thing, go get a coffee break, step away and come back and look at it with fresh eyes. This is one that your clients are going to want to print, I can pretty much guarantee that, so you've got to make sure it looks right. I'm going to add a little tiny bit more lightness to the baby there. Control or Command I to invert that. White brush to paint on. You can see it's created a layer mask, you just need to paint that on. And once you've added baby in, you can decide whether you want the Rose Sunset or the Early Morning. You can just click them and they come on or off. Add a rainbow if you want to. I'm going to turn that off and use Rose Sunset. Peachy Warm, Vintage Fade looks nice. You can also click on these layer masks with the black brush if you wanted to, and you can take this off any area of your image you don't want it to show. Really, really simply, just by washing over like that. We could add some extra contrast in too. And when you're happy, you can go File, save as and choose a new name for this one. For example, I recommend just popping your client's name at the beginning, and that way you won't save over the original digital background. And you can come to File, Save a Copy, or again Save As if you're in an older version of Photoshop, to save a JPEG flattened version for your client in full resolution. So that's how to use the LSP balloons. And these are available at www.lsp-actions.com. Please do join the LSP Actions Facebook group. That's Facebook.com/groups/Lemon Sky Actions. And do share your images edited, ask any questions. I'd love to see what you create with this. I'm Lauren, thanks for watching.